Call to order special council meeting for the Corporation of Brunel, Lindhoff and Ragland this 12th of May 2022 at approximately 1:02 p.m. Councilor Banks.
Yes.
Councilor Young.
Here.
Councilor Duffel.
Here.
Councilor Rutledge.
Here.
Resolution for adoption of the agenda of the Council for the Corporation of the Township of Brunel, Lindhoff and Ragland adopt the agenda as submitted. May we move on that? Councilor Banks, second Councilor Young, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
And that is carried. Disclosure of interest, of pecuniary interest on anyone's part with the matter before us today.
No.
No.
None. Purpose of the special meeting today is mostly budgetary. So. And we are now down to item 4.1. Final severance. The resolution says that the council for the corporation of the township of Brunel, Lindhoff and Ragland support the land severance application. Excuse me. Number B08/21, B09/21, and B10/21 from Deanne and Gerald Twilight for the creation of 3 new lots, with the condition that all the conditions listed in the County of Renfrew planning report concerning this division of land are met, and that the land division committee has ruled in favor of these severances. I'd like to move on that. Councilor Banks, second, Councilor Young. Any discussion on the resolution? Yes, Councilor Young.
Are we going to have a development agreement that they will have a vegetation, to put vegetation in on that buffer zone?
So through the mayor, that will be something the county will set up.
Any more questions on the resolution?
No.
Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Yes.
And that's carried. Now we're down to item 4.2. So the item 4.3, the budget resolution that we, the council for the corporation of the township of Brunel, Lindhoff and Ragland, approves the budget as presented and directs staff to call a public meeting for May 26th at 7 p.m. Do I have a mover on that? Councilor? Council, Seconder, Councilor Banks. I believe before I call for the vote, we'll do the budget slideshow, correct?
There'll be a few things to go into, but just to explain to council the process of the budget. So this is your meeting, your initial meeting of approving the budget in principle. The next would go to a public meeting for the public have an opportunity to comment on the budget. And then it would come back to council for the budget to be approved. So this is basically approving the budget as you see it. You're going to get your public comments. You might want to change things. So it's a basically third meeting that you approve the budget. Topic are actually approving the budget right now. Basically in principle. Okay. So going forward with the budget, one thing I like to do, especially good for the public, is to explain the process of what a budget is and what capital expenditures are and what operations expenditures are. A very large portion of municipalities in Ontario paid a consultant to do sort of a budget 101. And you can go on the internet and find many of these presentations. But I thought it'd be valuable to the residents and even council to just see what those components of a municipal budget are. So I think it's a 3-minute video. I'm just going to put it on for us. And just have to put your name up there.
We always hear about the minimum this can feel like another one we don't get. Last time we looked at what budget means. Simply put, it's a plan to itemize summary of money that is coming into the municipality and how that money is spent for a specific period of time. expenditures or a balanced budget. The municipality of Leeds and Grenville provides more than 21 core services to the citizens of Leeds and Grenville. So municipal council and administration always have to make difficult decisions to ensure this balancing takes place. There are two main components of the budget when looking at the money going outside the scale. Operating pays for all of the day-to-day activities of the corporation. This includes items such as salaries, wages, utilities, supplies, fuel, and insurance, just to name a few. The capital budget pays for all new big investments or the rehabilitation of current assets under the municipality's control. So let's focus on how the municipality collects and pays for all these services. For every dollar that comes into the municipality, 39 cents comes from property taxes, 40 cents from provincial grants, and 21 cents from other sources. So now we've learned what a budget is, how municipalities collect money, and how they spend it. Now, let's take a look at how these pieces work together. Money comes in through property taxes, grants and subsidies, and user fees. The money collected is required for both the operating and capital budget. We've already talked about the operating budget, including day-to-day expenses, but it also includes money for funding capital budgets. The capital budget pays for all new big investments or the renewal or rehabilitation of municipal assets and infrastructure. This connection is made through two methods: the reserve fund method, which sets aside funds to pay for capital projects on a cash basis. These are usually projects that are paid for in the short term, such as a road widening or replacement of a truck or piece of equipment, or the debt payment approach. This is the principal and interest payments on debt for projects that are paid for over the longer term, such as a new facility. Okay, so let's recap. 1. A budget is a plan for money coming in and money going out. There are two building blocks to the municipal budget: operating and capital. 2. The operating budget is like paying your house bills and the lights on. Just like in a normal household, our bills go up with inflation. 3. The capital budget is like major outlets: vehicles, house, renovations, etc. 4. Money comes in from three sources: property tax levy, user fees, and grants and subsidies. 5. Money coming in is used to deliver over 21 core services to municipal residents. 6. Municipal council and administration, with the input of the public, decide how to best balance the municipal budget, guided by legislation. That is how your municipality develops its budget.
So we're fairly similar to that, just a little overview of how the budget works. And to make it really simple, basically operations are like your hydro bill that you have. Capital is when you buy a car. Just a little bit of information for the public. We have another slide showing where sort of getting into our budget. So we're going to start out with some good news. We're going to look at our reserves. So the township actually has over $2 million in reserve, which is fairly healthy for a small municipality. You have $453,000 in working funds. You have your modernization money, you have the COVID restart, town hall, roads, waste site, recreation office, and fire. So go to the next slide. So basically, that's what you have going into 2022. It's a pretty healthy reserve. 2.2 is really reasonable for this municipality. Your working fund is fairly high and undefined. And the issue with that is, as you saw with the slideshow, basically all your money comes in through taxation. And if you're going to have a large pile of money in one area in a reserve, you really want to have it identified as to what you're going to use that for. So in the future, we could look at taking some of that money. Basically, it's a rainy day fund. But how much do you need for a rainy day? Maybe you need 200,000. Another thing that you don't have, if you just go back, Jordan, when you go to buy a new plow truck, where do you get the money from? The question to council, where does it come from? Does it come from roads? Does it come from working funds? It's not really defined that you have a equipment reserve. So basically, every time you go to buy something new, you've got to figure out where it's going to come from. And we'll just use an example of the plow truck that you're buying this year. We're going to take most of the money for it out of working fund, because that's the only place you have to take it from. But in future years, you should be having an equipment budget. And we'll go back up to the next slide after this one. And basically, a plan, you need to have a plan. So the plan, we're going to take 705 out of reserves this year. We'll show you where that's coming. And because you're taking the amount of money out, we're not going to put any into reserves this year. Especially because we're taking 437,000 from our OSIF grant. You would normally just put that in reserves, but you're putting it in reserves and not spending it. So this year, our road plan will include using all of that allocation this year. So in the future, and another thing you're legislating to do, which is part of our budget, is to establish an asset management plan that's sustainable. So when you buy that plow truck this year, you should be, your asset management plan should say, well, next slide. Your asset management plan should immediately kick in, and you should have a time that you replace that vehicle. So if you're buying a new truck and you're going to replace it in 20 years, the math is pretty easy, but we have to start putting into a reserve just for that truck. And when you have a big pile of money like your reserve is now, you don't have a place to get that money out. So that's what you look at in the future. So I just like to have some placeholders, and that's a culvert that's not too healthy. We'll go to the next slide. So the capital plan, as it stands right now, asset management is legislated. You have to do asset management. The furnace, most listed here is for two furnaces for the quad wheel shop. We replaced the furnace at Palmer Rapids this year, but our fire chief tells us that we need to look at the furnace for the upcoming winter. The roll-off truck is the 120,000 that you previously have approved, the sander you previously approved, and of course the plow truck previously approved. 15,000 is new for a crack seal program, and that's for the preservation of your asphalt roads. If you don't start crack sealing in the first 3 years, you're going to start really failing. And because you didn't have a crack seal program before, you're probably too late, but you need to start. The brush hog is something that the Public Works Superintendent brought forward to me. And the replacement half ton, this is to replace the truck that was damaged in the spring. And the A gravel program, and I'll explain this a little bit further in the next slide when we get to it. And then the capital roads, that's the 437,000 from OSIF. Fire truck, this is the fire truck that's got to be replaced. So your capital plan is around $1.1 million for this year. So go to the next slide. Or we will go to the next one. So this $100,000, and this is a new allocation for capital. This is for putting A gravel on specified roads and dust control and grading and compacting those roads. The way to do this is to target the roads and to have it fully supervised by a competent staff member or consultants. And then for the overall road rehabilitation plan, we would like council to identify 5 priority projects today. For our OSIF, we need to have the information to OSIF by tomorrow. So you are the experts on the roads you feel that need to be done. It doesn't mean we're going to get them all done with the 437, but it allows us as a staff to come up with a plan and to show OSIF that we do plan to spend that 437. So at this point, we go back down a little bit, back up to the slide. Does council have a road that just has to be done?
Well, I see there's two. One's Wingo and one's Moccasin. They're both in bad shape. and I need bad shape.
You're talking when you say Wingle, Cedar Grove?
Well, yeah, or come along Cedar, then yeah,
Yeah, but I
Go
think
up.
Cedar Grove needs to be included in that too. Whether it falls under that grant.
So this is your plan.
Yeah.
This is where staff needs.
well, you know, something, we started, when I was on council the last time, we started with Wingle Road, we got as far as Bob Bowerman's place, and we left it. That should be finished, for sure. And then the second one, I think, is Moccasin Lake. Because, I mean, we started that, and you go along that, I'd like to know how much it's cost the township to have those guys sitting, repair those potholes using that asphalt day after day after day, like, what's the man hours and what's the patch cost? You know, for what we probably spent, we probably could have done the road by now.
Definitely would have helped, yeah.
And it's just getting worse and worse.
I'm happy to see at least a budget that's being brought to us, know that we do have 437,000 on CIF that we can actually say these are the votes we want, and council or staff will develop a plan for us. So I think that's a real plus for us here today. I know in the past we did, we verbally agreed on Cedar Grove, Wingle, and Moccasin Lake as priority projects for this year. So if that still stands with council, or if they have any ideas. Any other roads.
But, you know something, I was thinking about the way we built that road, you asked Elvin. He did it right. I mean, you go along that road, there's no cracks in it, no nothing. I mean, because I think when we did the road, we didn't put that gravel and the oil down or tar right away. I think we left it for a year, like he said, and we drove over it, and then we did it. And you know something, that road is, like I say, that was done when I was first on council, and it's still like the first day we did it. You know, Elvin was a good guy to have on the roads. He knew how to build his roads.
So through the mayor, realistically, in 2022, bringing a road to completion will be a difficult thing. But as the councillor states, doing the pulverization and the rebuilding of the gravel 1 year and the culverts, allowing to settle the winter, allows you to find the areas that you may have issues with and do them next year. So doing roads that way is a good way to do things. With the 3 roads that you have right now on your list, I think it would be advisable to get 2 more roads that work, because when you're not putting the asphalt down or the tar and chip or whatever you're doing in the road, the price is going to be more manageable. So the 437 might go a little further than you think it will.
Still have Sully Road to finish.
Yes, that's right. That's correct.
Which one's Sully?
That's the new shoulder.
Oh, okay, so,
Yeah.
what is it
It's
called?
going to be called Sully.
So, and I think we should finish that and get it done and out of the way.
SU or SC?
SULLY.
SUL.
So when you guys are talking about Wingle, are you talking from the 514 to the 515?
No, we're talking from where
Right
we
to-
left off at Bob Bowerman's, right down to Cedar Grove.
Well, I would think we would go to 514, wouldn't you?
Well, no, well, I'd like to see that completed first and then do all of Cedar Grove all at once.
Yeah,
I guess-
because Cedar Grove's gotta be done.
Yeah, I mean, really, that only has to be done down past Johnny Shoots,
Yeah,
you know, because actually that's where we've always left it off.
Yeah.
At Johnny Shoots there.
How far does our road go down?
Oh, actually, it goes all the way to the bluegrass and around that corner there. Um, but it's all dirt right now at the moment.
the old chip and dip stumps at the top of
Uh,
the hill.
Yeah, but
Well-
does the other part of the road like need some culverts or build up or
And
gravel?
there's a portion of that road though that, maybe should be looked at changing and going across Percy Shoot property to get away from the flooding. We looked at that before, there was a high spot there. That's some kind of, you know, people. But from the corner down, I head down, I wouldn't be spending any money on it. Because made that decision. But to move the road. That's just my opinion.
And I think it's the biggest thing about the OCIF is we're really looking at our harder top roads at this point.
So through the mayor, it doesn't necessarily have to be hard top, but when you look at the plan, we're talking about, we're doing $100,000 on your gravel road.
Yes, exactly.
So you really should look at your hard top roads.
And if I can look at, if you're still looking for projects, I can look at our very past asset management plan. And on that list, there's, if you look way back, if you're going back to 2015, Trout Lake was on that. Short section, 0.6 kilometers, and there's also river roads. So that will be one right?
Yeah.
And I know it's some pretty cool shape.
Was there any roads on there from Brunel Way?
Letterkenny, that showed up many times, and Abington, those have been, I have them, when they were completed, I have them.
Because I think it would be nice to share equally kind of between the two.
Yeah. If
Oh,
the
yeah.
opportunities exist, no, you're exactly.
Nice if we could do a little bit of something with Cameron Lake Road, you know, it's a dead end road. It's right through the village.
And Cormac's listed here.
Pardon?
Cormac is
Cormac,
listed
yeah.
here too.
Oh, my God. They were 200 on that. Let's try.
Yes, Andrew, sorry.
So through the mayor, and this is getting bigger than 5.
Yep,
So
yep,
Yeah.
yep.
if I would just go back with Bingo being the #1 priority.
Yeah.
And Moccasin being a #2,
I would say so, it's completely done.
and Cedar Grove being #3.
I think so.
I think
Like,
if
I
you're doing Wingo, Cedar Grove should be 2, because they're kind of connected.
Well, they're connected together, yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna be two.
So now you have Sully, Trout Lake, River Road, Letterkenny, Cameron, and Cormac.
What is Letterkenny? Yeah, that's all new road.
What's that?
That's all new road, is it not?
Letterkenny's done, sorry.
Okay, so
It's, no,
Okay.
sorry.
I'm wait.
I kind of stroked it off as we finished
Yeah.
it, that was kind of the one that always showed up on the list, but
So now you have Sully, Trout Lake, River Road, Cameron, and Cormac.
Sully definitely has to be done.
Oh, yeah.
Because
That's gravel road though,
it's,
right?
yeah, that's gravel.
So we'll just take that one off as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now you have Trout Lake and River Road are very short.
This river, how much of River Road was done the other year?
Yeah, that's your thing.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
This is on the
River
other
Road's
side,
the other
side
side.
of the bridge, yeah. And that should actually be done all the way down to, what's that, Camp Cove?
Yeah, some of that was done
Oh, was it?
30 years ago.
Burnt Ridge is also listed on this. For your info.
What needs to be done on Cormac Road? Anybody know?
I haven't been on one in a long time.
I go through there, but that's been quite a while too.
I just know with COVID being over, well, kind of technically over, with the bluegrass happening, starting back up this summer too, and that's awesome to grow.
Maybe we should leave pulverize it, make it pulpy so they stay.
What's, does anybody know the fellow that we had last year complaining about his culvert? Was that ever taken care of for the ditching there? They did ditch it? Okay.
And that's what grows. Pardon?
That's Rochford Road, and that's
Oh.
a gravel road right
What would be the reality of some of these roads that were chipping in the past? There never ever really was a proper base, made at that time. Because years ago, it was explained, there's all kinds of money at one time, and simply take down the chip and dip, and that's your full road bed. That's why it never lasted. So say a road like Cedar Grove, past, and I know Andrew don't know where I'm talking about, the road from Cedar Grove, Wingo connects and you go past. What would be the chances of, or council or even the municipalities benefit to turn a road like that back into a gravel road?
So through the mayor. I'll just give you an example, the township that could ask me for some help. And they were so proud that they have 900 kilometers of road, and they finally did all the asphalt, all their 900 kilometers for asphalt. And I said, what are you gonna do now? And they said, what are you talking about? I said, how are you going to maintain 900 kilometers of asphalt? That's the problem with small municipality. Replacement of asphalt road is about $1 million a kilometer. And that's to do the full base repair. It's so hard to maintain that infrastructure for a small municipality. Now, you do the weighing thing where you look with a small section of road, we tar and chip it. We don't have to send the guys out there often, so you weigh things out. But what you need to do in your asset management plan to eventually address that is identify your priority roads. And, is it a priority to put a hard surface on a road that gets 20 cars a day? It may be because that's the only road for the school buses on it. You look at all those things. So turning roads back to gravel is sometimes advantageous. You will take the risk of anytime you take a road, you'll have people complain about their asphalt road, but the second you make it gravel, it used to be paved, it was great, but it's hard to do that as a council. Like I said in the slide, you have to make tough decisions sometimes. But I would suggest for now, because you've got 3 firm roads, that if you allow staff to take 3 more roads that are shorter roads, like the Trout Lake and River Road, and I'm here in Cormac, and put those on our list. Then we'll see how far we go. At least we're giving OSIF this, and we'll get as far as we can this year. The plan for each of those roads and how we go forward, we'll have to come back to council. But right now you're saying to OSIF, thank you for the money we're going to spend this year. We have a plan. Please give us more money next year. This is what you're trying to do.
Yeah. Okay. Yes,
One thing about that Cedar Grove is, like you say, turn it back into gravel. But what I would like to see, because there's a lot of washboard, is from where you make the real sharp turn, going up towards Timmy Shoots and around by Nelson Jones. Look at just putting that chip and dip on that and keeping the rest of it.
Yeah.
Because when you have a real heavy rainfall, you get that washboard effect. And, that's.
So I guess saying that, I mean, staff will come back to the plan addressing that. Roads we forward, so part of that plan will include in future, because I'm assuming this year, like I said, it's gonna be hard to complete the road fully 100%. If you get them ground, if you get the gravel down, the ditching down, the culverts in, that's gonna be your start of this year's. But at least there'll be progress made, at least I'm starting up this project.
Then another thing, if you look at that Opiongo Road from Boyman out to 41, they chipped and dipped it right away, and they're doing nothing but patching it right away. Like I said, Elvin, he left his, and we drove over it, we graded it, and we chipped it, and it's still perfect.
And we did the same with Little Iron and that first half of Bruce. It's the same thing. Gravel and then left it for a year and sit before we put it on.
Yeah. I think it makes a big difference. And I think it lasts longer.
So can we apply for a grant like we did for Letterkenny, like for Wingle from maybe 514 to 515?
So through the mayor, what you are using right now is your zero set grant, but to go further, what you can do, because this year you have a plan, you're planning to go ahead with the pulverization and the gravel and culverts, is progressively look for grants to do the hard surface for next year. And if something comes up, then you've got a really good case, we're ready to go, we've done all the work we have to do, all we need to do is put the asphalt on or the tar check. So the answer, the short answer is yes. So for the mayor, keep going. Wingle, Moccasin, Cedar Grove, Trout Lake, River Road, and Cormac.
Yeah.
That council agrees, and we'll be bringing back a lot of road information. And as some of council knows, roads are a big part of my background, and the building of roads. How to do it on your spring budget?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, well, we'll try to build bigger roads than that. So the operations budget is reflective of the services provided by the township and the regular expenses of the township. So this is the meat and potato stuff we talked about. This is our wages, our utilities, our maintenance, our license fees, legal expenses, which we hope are small, fuel and other regular expenditures. The important thing on the operation budget, it's an estimate, it's your best estimate based on available information. So you look at the future, you look at the past, and you look at your year to date. It does not include a contingency. So we didn't pad the operation budget. So I think, well, we can take a hit, but we didn't make it that way. It's up to staff to be diligent and council to provide oversight of the budget to make sure that staff are following the budget and staying in line. So no matter what your budget is, your operation budget, if staff are diligent and council provides the oversight, then you stay in line. It's when you start going all over the place, you have problems. So next slide, Jordan, that should be another piece of beautiful equipment. I just like putting equipment in there. So this is the basic budget. And as we go back to the first slideshow, what you want to happen is for your expenses to match your revenues. So with everything in there, and we can go line for line too if you want. But just the basic picture, when we put everything in there, and we did put a 1.5 on the levy, it was council's direction was to do for an increase. So that's included in there. We have, our budget's basically out by $12,000. And $12,000 is basically 1% of the levy, or close to 1% of the levy. So just to make what we're presenting here work, council has to make a decision on how to balance things. So if you want us to add another 1% on the levy, that would be 2.5% of the levy. Or does council want us to find 11,788 in our operations? Or does council want to take that 11,788 other reserves? So this is a point where council should sort of give us direction as to what you would like to do. All things being equal, and that we did a really good budget, and we'll be looking at that. Where do you want to find $12,000?
Not from the levy, I don't think.
I would say from the working fund,
That's my suggestion.
because I mean, at the end of the year, we could have a surplus that's gonna go back.
Okay,
We don't know that.
so staff would recommend, and not that we like cutting our budget, is you could go through the operations budget And you can take a few pencils away from the clerk, and you can take a firefighter's helmet away, you can do little, you can pick all over the place, but you're not gonna come up with 12,000 very quickly. You can look at your capital. And the reason I say look at your capital, even though I don't like to lose capital, is that when you decide that you don't want to add another 1% levy, why did you add the first 1.5%? Why don't you just take it all out of reserves? The problem with taking everything out of reserves, is you never build reserves up. So you have to be careful when you start withdrawing from reserves. So when you go back to the sheets that you have in front of you, there's a sheet on capital. Should have on capital. You know, what don't you want to buy? Let's go back to the slide on capital. The easier was put it on the board. So your asset management, I'll go through it again, if I want council to really understand what they're doing. The 15,000 is legislative. You have to do an asset management plan. And it's actually going to cost you more than 15,000, but realistically, you can only spend 15 on it this year. The deadline is July, so you don't need to put more than 15 in there. The furnace for Watteville, it's 2 furnaces. They were having problems keeping the furnaces going this winter. And there's some real issues, and we've certainly found issues here. The roll-off truck, you do need a roll-off truck, we need something, and we still haven't got that. I got some new prices today. On the sander, you've approved. The combo plow, you've already bought. The crack sealing program is a good thing to do. The brush hog is something you need. The replacement half ton is you do need to replace that truck at some point. The gravel and the capital roads are a really good initiative by council, and it's not adding to your levy at all. The fire truck, you've already committed. So what do you attack in capital? Council could authorize the purchase of a new pickup truck and order it in 2022 for pre-budget approval for 2023, which is something you could do if you would be paying for it in the next year. Or you could decrease the amount. Or not do a crack seal program this year. So my suggestion would be to take your 12,000 out of there. Look at the replacement truck, the crack seal program. Both are valuable, but it's a good place to take money.
Wow.
There, I wouldn't want to take that crack field, because it's going back to the road. It's in pretty bad shape, and it's definitely needed those cracks filled. Ice is just going to push it right more. I think that there. When you say brush hog, are you referring to like a rental of equipment or buying a brush hog?
This is the purchase of a unit.
Okay, but we don't have a tractor.
So you do have some tractors that do something. This is brought to me by the public works person as well. I have some background
Did
information.
you fix the tractor then? Because it wasn't.
Well, the tractor was fixed, yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to go to Douglas.
Pardon?
It was supposed to go to Douglas last
It
year.
has been repaired.
Then looked at that price was too high or something. They didn't do it or something.
No.
It's fixed.
It
It
has
wasn't
been
fixed?
fixed.
Okay,
It's
okay.
fixed.
All right.
No, we actually have a tractor now that we can attach a bush hog to.
Yeah,
Because
How big a tractor
and that's
is
a
it?
big money saver.
it's the one we always have here.
That massive.
That's-
Yeah, but
It's a good
no,
one.
it's a good site.
Oh, yeah.
Because the last thing you want to do is buy a brush hog and the tractor can't run it.
Well, I don't know what kind it is, but.
You kind of have to know the horsepower, so you know how big a brush hog to get, and you might not spend 11,000.
So we do have an estimate on one, the $11,000 is a good firm estimate. council could also reduce the gravel program, but I think that it's a good idea to show that you're spending money, because you can also say that your gravel is part of your OSIP, because you are making a withdrawal from reserves for the plow truck. Use the justification of 100,000 being out of your OSIP reserve that you have too, so it's good to keep that in place.
So then I guess we're down to the half ton.
Basically, I'm still I'm still leaning towards taking the working.
I am too,
Certainly not.
because generally, like if you take it out of the working fund,
Yeah.
we have a surplus at the end of the year. It goes back into the working fund, so you really. That's my,
Council, what are your thoughts, the rest of the council? Back to Page 2 for reserves. On your screen.
So through the mayor, we can make adjustments and take that fine. So I just wanted to give that discussion. It was a good discussion. Council.
No, I'm confident enough in the capital program. Ever since I've been here, and I mean, we budgeted for capital, and we always have money left over at the end of the year to put back into reserves, whatever it is. Staff do a good job of maintaining the finances here, and
So staff will make that adjustment.
And I'm fine with that. Yeah.
Yeah, fine with that. I got a question.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about another half ton. How many half tons do we have?
So this half ton would be replacing the one that was damaged in the winter plow, the one plow that was here. So it's not adding to the fleet. One thing that will be coming back to council is there's an awful lot of steel sitting at Quadville that could be revenue for the township. And there's a couple of trucks sitting there, pickup trucks, so that will be a report coming forward to council on moving some of that equipment and steel out.
Now, do any of those half tons work at all, or no? So in other words, nobody's wanting like for old plow trucks, but nobody's buying.
they're mostly pickup trucks to see what happens.
Like they're not four-wheel drive or nothing like that.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
No, they're just an old, as we used to get from the county.
Okay.
So council's good with the adjustment we did.
Yeah.
While we're still in reserves, and go to the next page, or this page again. You do have a healthy reserve. You are taking 700,000 out of it, but you still have over 1.2 in your reserves. And if you work throughout the year to try to reduce your working fund, which you're sort of going to do right now, but the working fund needs to be about $200,000 to cover rainy day. And maybe to create a specific equipment reserve, which should be out of your asset management plan. If council's good with the reserve plan for this year, then we can move on. So we'll go back to that last page. So again, you're now 37 and 30, or 3.7 and 3.7. So you're balanced. You have a 1.5% increase in the levy to make this happen. And that was the direction that council gave staff. So if council's still okay with that, then you have a balanced budget. The operations, if we go down through the expenses, wages and benefits, there's not a lot of play in wages and benefits. The general government, there's not going to be a lot of play. protection services, transportation services, environmental services, and your recreation, and then your land use planning and development. These things don't change a lot. If council wants, we will go through the line items. One thing that we've done is we have taken the wages and benefits and grouped them all into one. And this is for the protection of our workers. When you have one worker in a class and you put the wages and benefits up on the screen, everyone knows exactly what the person makes. So we don't want to put those things up. That's why wages and benefits have been grouped together. If council would like to review the line for line, we can do that. It's up to you as to what you want to do now, or do you want to take the time to look at the line for line and come back? We can provide that information, go through it right now if you want.
Council wish to see that?
I would be happy just to have a copy of it to look at.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have to go through it line by line here. because-
And then if we do have questions.
Questions, I was just gonna say,
We
yeah.
can always bring it back.
Yeah, we can always.
So through the mayor, what we will do is this information is posted on the website right now. So it's out there. We will do those line items and give council a copy of it. We'll also post that information. So that, because your next step is going to be your public meeting.
Yes.
And if someone has a concern or council has any concerns or questions, then they can bring them to the deputy treasurer or myself, and we can look over those things. But again, I don't think we're going to find a lot of money in the operations. And council has made it clear what your decision on capital is, so you're pretty well that this is the way capital is going to be. We're not going to change anything in capital. And we're not going to take any more money out of anything at this point at all, because we have no direction to do that. So what you get is what you get as far as those expenses. If you have any information or one questions, and certainly bring them to the deputy treasurer myself. I'm very pleased and proud of the staff for putting this together. I will tell you that we went through it line for line many times, many different scenarios. We looked at the past budget, we looked at the present, we looked at what's happening, trends. For example, would be fuel. You know, some people would say we just put a target on the wall and shoot it anywhere. No idea where fuel's going to be. But we did look at what estimates are going to be. You know, in the last 2 years, fuel's gone up 36%. Pretty hard in this model. Some expenses are going to be completely based on actual, for example, insurance, we get our number of leaks a year. If our hydro was 7,800 last year, it would be reasonable to put in that 82 this year. Because things are going to go up. That's the type of things that would change. There's not really a lot there that's changed. So, if you want to go back to the resolution for the budget. And we do need to set a date for our public meeting. The earliest date that you can have it, I believe, is the 26th of February, or not February, May. So if council is okay with that day, that's a Thursday, I believe.
Yes.
So we have to give 2 weeks notice for our public meeting. If Tammy gets out of here before 4 o'clock, she can put the notice up and we're 2 weeks. I have a thing that I like to not be the last budget in Ontario passed, so.
Do you like downtown?
That Wednesday,
Is it a day meeting or a night meeting?
that's on a Thursday, 26th.
Oh, that's
So,
right.
Yeah, we.
So is it always, all our meetings during the day always gonna be on a Thursday? Because that's my day too, but I'm not going
So
This is on
one's
Thursday night.
Thursday evening, this one's
Okay.
Thursday, so.
Just through the mayor, when you do a public meeting, it's usually advantageous to do it in the evening because people that want to come to a public meeting or make comment.
Yeah.
It's more easier for them. And with COVID, what we can do is ask the public for questions.
Yeah.
And it's easier for council to process the questions that they have before.
So the public can't attend here?
The public would attend the way that they do now,
Yes,
but if we put it out to ask the question, so if we know number 967-1111 has a question,
yeah,
we can turn the microphone on to that person,
okay,
and we don't want to necessarily, the people have to identify themselves.
yes,
They should identify themselves with who they are and what their roll number is,
Yeah.
or their address, because anyone can make comment on a budget, but they do have to identify who they are. So if council is good with the time and the date, then the deputy clerk will set that up.
Okay, so we have moved in second on the resolution. Any more questions? If none, I'll call for the roll then. All in favor?
yes.
Okay, that is carried.
So you email us then, right down the line?
We will give you a paper copy today.
Oh,
So that ends the open part of our meeting. Right now, we have a closed session of council. It says that we, the council for the corporation of the township of Brunel and Dr. Ragland, will go into closed session pursuant to West Black 2001, section 2392, for the purposes of subsection B, two personal matters left and in file individual, including municipal and local board employees. So I will run that. Councilor Young, the seconder, Councilor Banks, all in favor?
yes.
Yes.
And that is carried. So the resolution says that council can go to closed session at approximately 2:05 PM. And then move that, Councilor Young, Councilor Calhoun, all in favor?
yes.
And that is carried. And to confirmatory bylaw. That we, the council for the corporation township of Brunel and Dr. Ragland, hereby adopt bylaw 2022-26, being a bylaw confirming proceedings of May 12, 2022, special meeting of council. Any mover on that? Councilor Calhoun, Councilor Rutledge, a second. All in favor?
Yes.
And that is carried. And we're down to adjournment, that this meeting adjourned at approximately 2:06 PM. All in these mover, Councilor Young. All in favor? And that is carried.